Morning you guys, it's Karen and I wanted to do a video about my recent Botox experience. I'm not talking about the name of the company because I need to protect myself from being at risk. But I wanted to talk about what happened to me and what can go wrong with Botox and how long it will last and what, if there are any remedies, any solutions and what you can do about it. So to let you know my background, I've been having Botox for about, I think it's about 7 or 8 years. I remember that I always said I would have Botox when I was 40. And I actually had it done quite a few years before that because I'm now 43. And I remember thinking, well, I didn't wait until I was 40, nowhere near it. So I feel it was as well about the time I started working in the hospital in medical research, or actually in radiology was about the time I learnt about Botox, and I learnt that it's something that's been used for many, many years in medicine and in medical situations. It's used in children. It's not anything dangerous. Fillers, etc. is a whole other story, but Botox is something that's considered safe in the medical industry and is used medically. So yeah, I knew I would have it, and the reason I had it is because I have got partially hooded eyes. So when I say partially hooded eyes, they are not, I haven't had hooded eyes since birth. My eyes have got crepey as I've got older, and the skin has got looser here. And so when I am in a relaxed position, it's difficult to show you now because the effect of the Botox is still there, and this is the Botox gone wrong in my opinion. But my eyes, the skin here sit on top, a little bit on top of my eyelid. And so what I did was I went and had Botox for my 11s, which is the lines here, and just my crow's feet here. And what happened is she knocked out the muscles so that I could not pull my eyebrows in, so I couldn't frown. Like I can frown a little bit now, not very much, but I can frown. But it knocked those muscles out. The result was that I got a brow lift, and that's something you can go and have done with Botox. It's a brow lift. And because it stopped this pulling in, when I was making expressions or at rest, it lifted it ever so slightly, but more than lift it, it kind of held it in place and it didn't then wrinkle up like it does there. So from that day, I loved it. It just made me feel like I could put the makeup on that I loved on my eyes. It smoothed them out a little bit. And I've always wanted to have that brow lift ever since. Unfortunately, I have found this wonderful woman to do it. I had it done with her a couple of times and then she left. And that has happened to me over the years. Every time I found somebody that can do the brow lift, because it's an advanced Botox procedure, they've left the company that I've gone to and I've had to start my search again. And I've had a lot of bad experiences with Botox, but I've never had anything go wrong with the actual procedure. When I say bad, I've had bad customer service experience. Like I once turned up and they said they didn't have my appointment, but I could show them a text for it, or I've been kept waiting for an hour before being seen, or I've had Botox and it hasn't done anything, like there hasn't been any effect at all, it just hasn't kicked in. So there's been a lot of experiences like that. So I was at the point where I was due to have my Botox and I wasn't really sure where I was going to go, but I went to this company that I had never heard of, but it sounded wonderful. They did a kind of new type of, they called it a HD brow lift, and it put a little bit of filler in the brow here, and then it also did a brow lift with the Botox as you would normally get. And I went ahead and I was really, really happy because it sounded wonderful. It sounded like I was going to get more than I usually get because of this additional little bit of filler. I'm not actually talking about the filler today. The filler for me was fine, but there are risks with filler. It's not something I'd have done. It's something that definitely has risks. It's the Botox I'm talking about today. But to let you know, whenever I've gone and had a consultation over the years, because I struggled to find somebody that could do this advanced brow lift, and I'd always have to keep going back at the 2-week appointment and said, no, you haven't knocked out the feeling. I would start taking pictures. I would start asking people where they did the Botox and then I'd show the next practitioner, this is the points that they use. And on me, they would normally do it along my eyebrow. That's where they would do the Botox, and that seemed to be the way it worked the best, other than one woman who put a little tiny bit up here. What pretty much all of the practitioners told me over the years, was that you can't knock out your horizontal lines and your vertical lines. It just doesn't work, because Botox is about opposing muscles. You knock out one that pulls your face up, you knock it out, it pulls it down. One that pulls your face down, a muscle that works in pulling your face down or holding it in place downwards, you knock it out and it springs upwards. you can't knock out all of the muscles to make everything disappear, because it just doesn't work like that. There would be nothing left. So I'd heard this all the way along, and thankfully for me, I don't have any of the horizontal lines, so I never needed, I don't know why I'm doing this, like you don't know what horizontal lines are. I don't have any horizontal lines at all, so I never needed that doing, so that was fine. Knock out the vertical lines, do it along here, and it, you know, kind of had an effect. I went to this practitioner. He said he would do, you know, I explained exactly that it's my not my crow's feet, sorry, it's my hooded eyes that were the big problem for me, and it was the brow lift that I was wanting. He wanted to knock out, he said, I need to work on your horizontal lines as well. And I said, well, I don't have any horizontal lines, so I don't need that, thank you. And that would give me a risk of droop. And he said, well, because he was putting filler in here, it would push the brow up a little bit. And he said, this will cause a little crease. So I can't have a little crease there. So I was like, okay, if you think there's no risk, that's absolutely fine. Go ahead. The thing with Botox is there is always a risk. You need to be aware, if you're considering Botox, if you've had Botox, there is always a risk that your face will do something that you don't want it to. The biggest risk with having Botox on your forehead is that it will push your eyebrows down like this. And that is what's happened to me. And he acknowledges that there's always a risk, but there's more of a risk when you do the horizontal and vertical. So he was convinced it would all be fine, it would look wonderful, so I had it done. Botox takes 3 days before you can even see anything, and I don't think people realise that. People come away and think they can see a difference, or they're going to see a difference the following day, and it just doesn't happen. And in fact, I saw one programme on television, I was very confused, but they obviously just did it for the TV, where they had the Botox and then her friends were saying, oh, you look amazing, and I thought, Botox doesn't work like that. It doesn't physically start to take effect until the 3-day point. Anyway, it takes from 3 days to 2 weeks to kick in. That is the kind of, it could be 2 weeks before you see any difference. It could start at 3 days. For me, it always starts in 3 days. I can see a difference, and then it just gradually gets a stronger effect over the next couple of weeks. So after 3 days, I could actually see that instead of my brows going up, they were going down. And I just hoped that it was the initial effect, and that it was kicking in one set of muscles and not in the other. But I realised, as actually the days went on, but very quickly I realised that it had, in my opinion, gone wrong. I went to see him for a consult later, and he doesn't think it's going wrong, which I just can't understand how he can say that. Anyway, I'll show you some before and after pictures now so you can see exactly what I mean, because you might look at me just now and say, well, you don't look like you've got hooded eyes. I've now rethought the way I do my makeup, and I put my crease much higher, and I do things a lot differently to try and make my eyes look less hooded. But they are now more hooded than they were before, and the effect I wanted was to be less hooded. Like I said, I'll put some pictures in now so that you can see. I'll keep talking and maybe just do a cutaway or a side by side or something like that, but they're definitely more hooded now. And what you can see in the pictures is that I actually had my eyebrows tattooed at around about the same time I was having all of this done. But I had my tattooed eyebrows done just before I got the Botox, and she put an arch in my brow, and so there's a bit of an arch here. And you can see when you look at the pictures that before I had the Botox, I've got kind of curved eyebrows. Afterwards, they're just straight. And so that's the first indication that yes, definitely my eyebrows have drooped. The second thing is that you can see less of my eyelid. So what it's done is the exact thing that I was worried about with doing the horizontal and vertical, is it has pushed my forehead down. It's made my eyes smaller, that there's not as much space. Like my eyes used to be like that, there's now that much space underneath my eyebrow. And that's because he's hit a muscle here that holds the head up, and that's relaxed it and it's dropped down. I went to see the guy, like I said, I sent an email and they said give it the full 2 weeks and then come and see us. So I went to see him, and I was very upset actually, because it's a whole different look for me. It's not what I wanted. I wanted the eyebrow lift as a bit of a lift for me to make me feel a bit better, and obviously I didn't get that. What he said was that it could sometimes take 3 weeks for it to kick in, 3 to 4 weeks for it to kick in, and he felt that this was just the preliminary stages, and that it would then lift after a few weeks. I don't believe that. I didn't believe that, because like I said, that's not how Botox works. I understand that he was saying that in some people it can take up to 4 or 5 weeks, and that's true. Where I'm saying that normally at 2 weeks that's it, there will be a small amount of people that it takes 3 or 4 weeks. But that being the case, you wouldn't see any difference. Nothing would have happened. It wouldn't go one way and then go the other, other than maybe some muscles reacted and some didn't. It's just a very unusual situation. But I could still move my eyebrows in, and I still can. He didn't do what he was supposed to do on that day. And so my only hope, because Botox is not reversible, was that he could knock out opposing muscles, if that makes sense. So, like I said, it's not reversible. There's nothing you can do about Botox gone wrong. Filler, there is actually, but Botox, you just have to wait it out. It lasts between 3 to 6 months in most people, some less, some more, but you just have to wait for it to disappear. But with this, I thought I could still move my eyebrows inwards. If he can knock out these muscles, that will lift this up as was originally intended, and that, whilst it won't correct the whole thing, it will help a little bit because it will pull them up a bit and make them just a bit wider. So he's put a bit in here, but it hasn't actually done anything. As you can see, I can still move my eyebrows. So I want that whole situation behind me now, personally. I've got used to my eyes the way they are now. You know, I know how to do the makeup on them now. Now it's just a waiting game, and I'll wait until this runs out, if you like, which should be it's been a month now, maybe nearly 2 months. No, I think it's been about a month and a half, something like that. In another month or 2 months, it should look a lot more like my usual self. And even a lot of you have commented that my eyes are looking a lot less hooded, and that's because the Botox is starting to wear off already. It's like a slope. It's not like one day you wake up and the Botox is gone. It's like a slope, and so it's starting to wear off. Between now and the next couple of months, it will wear off even more, and my eyes will look back to normal. I wish there was a way I could tell you that you could avoid this happening to you, but there really isn't a way to avoid it, because any practitioner will tell you that there is always the risk of this happening, because it's such a small area that. And it's not that they've done something wrong necessarily, sometimes it is, but it is always a risk. So you have to accept that risk before you go in. And I think that in itself will be a good thing. If you go in accepting the risk, then it's not quite so upsetting when it does happen because you expected it. I'm annoyed because I feel that it was because of this horizontal line thing that this went wrong, and he won't accept it, which is understandable. He won't accept any liability for it because that wouldn't be the wise thing to do if you were in business. What am I going to do about it? I'm not sure. Part of me wants to send him an email and ask for a refund, but his response will just stress me out because I don't think he's not the type of guy that's going to reply and say, here's your money back, you're right, we did the wrong thing. He's just not, because he did go on a lot about the money because he gave me a discount. When I went for that review, he kept saying about how he'd given me a discount, and I didn't see any relevance to that. So I feel like I'm just going to leave that in the past, but I'm not going to stop having Botox. A lot of people, if you follow me on my channel, because some of you will be here just to see about this Botox experience, some of you will be already followers of my YouTube channel, and a lot of people have said, oh, we'll never have Botox again. Absolutely, I will have Botox again, because I know that Botox is the right thing for me. I believe in its safety, and it works for me 99% of the time. I now know that definitely I do not ever need anything done horizontally. That will cause the problem. But the other thing is I now know how to do my makeup, and I always knew that it was a risk. I'm lucky that it didn't happen before my wedding, because I had the Botox done before my wedding as well, so I'm lucky that it didn't happen then. So I will definitely have it done again in the future. I have done 2 other videos on this. I've done the before and after where you can see the brow lift with it actually working, so I'll link those in here. I'll put like the little cards in so you can see it at the top of the screen, and I'll also make sure I link it in the description so you can see. But you should be able to tell from the pictures that what went wrong here. And like I said, yes, part of me wants to kick off and ask for a refund, etc., but the other part of me just wants to put this horrible experience in the past and move on. But I wanted to at least let people know this is what can happen to you, so that you've got all of the information if you're going to go for it. And it's not up to me to recommend or otherwise. For me, it's a good thing to do for me. So I hope that was useful. Obviously I haven't gone into details of exactly which points he put it in, and exactly how much he put in, because generally in the UK we don't know how much they put in. They don't tell you, not like with filler, you do get told how much they put. And also with the placement, that wouldn't help you, because every practitioner does it differently. They do the placement differently, so it's something you need to discuss with your practitioner. I would say make sure you can, if possible, go to a nurse and a salon, as opposed to like you know, at shows and things like that. That's everything. I hope that this was interesting to you. If you've got any questions, of course leave them in the comments below, and I'll speak to you again soon.